Well, welcome to our first episode of The Silence is Deafening with host Minister Adrianne Watson. And I just am so excited about our first guest today. This young lady is so dear to my heart. She's like family. She even calls me auntie. I'm her mentor, but she is an amazing woman of God, mother, wife, minister of music, and she has a voice that just does not even explain. Her own name is Angel, and she has a voice like an angel. And she is my absolute favorite gospel artist of all times. And I wanted to introduce to you my sister in Christ, Angel Robinson.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here this morning.
I'm so glad, Angel, you were here to join us, and that you took out time in your schedule today to talk about some difficult conversations that we just want women of God to be able to hear the hearts of those that are hurting throughout all of these racial issues and racial tension that has come to light. And I am a firm believer that it is the responsibility of the church to be in the forefront of this conversation, because if the church can bring healing, then our world can heal. And it is when the church steps up and does what they need to do, and we begin to truly live like Christ, then we can be that example of the spiritual component behind racism and the evil that it presents. So this morning, I would like for you to talk about specifically, what has it been like for you as an African American in the church, born and raised in a family of the church, serving with your husband, who's also a minister of music at your church, and you guys have been serving for years in different arenas. Give us a little bit about your background and how that's been in this climate of racial tension.
Well, I feel like this climate is a product of what was already there, but people, because of things that are happening that are just directly in our face, people want to talk about it. And the church's involvement in that, I think, is where a lot of people tread the line of, we don't want to get started with this. Because the things are that, part of the history with Christianity in America and African Americans has been largely whitewashed. I think the layers of, it's multi-layered, being married to a Black man first, me being a Black woman married to a Black man, and then us both working in ministry. And so there's a perpetuation of, unfortunately, white supremacy that's been carried out through Christianity.
Right, you're right, because wasn't it Martin Luther King who said the most segregated place on Sunday mornings is the church? And it was because Black people were not allowed to worship with white people. And so that is how the Black church and the white church started, because of that. So explain a little bit more about what you mean by whitewashed.
Well, I think all of us have seen a picture of Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes.
Correct.
But in the Bible, he's not described as such. And last I checked, hair like wool, describing the hue of his skin, it looks nothing like what we've seen in images.
Correct.
That in and of itself, knowing that if we really follow the description that was given to us in the Bible, he might more favor a Middle Eastern immigrant than white male. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being in place, I feel like the notion of using Christianity as a platform to make others, what's the word? Put others into servitude of some type, you know what I'm saying? Or beneath other people. I mean, I'm shocked when I look at some of the stories that some white evangelical people have told me about what they learned at church or just reading the stories, about how certain Bible stories were used to say, well, Black people are under us because of this.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And
yes.
It's like, what? Really? I went to a white evangelical private school from 1st through 5th grade.
Mm.
Honestly tell you, I didn't experience any of that. So my experience with, having the great education, being treated like, not like I was the only Black girl in the class. I was just treated like everybody else. When I hear people who came, from the same background as me,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they were taught in church. It's just like, boom. It's not like you don't know that it happens, but when it's brought in your face, it's just a different thing. So it's brought me to a point where, there's been a big falling away of the faith for especially Black millennials.
Yes.
Some of it is because of the whitewashing of Christianity.
Okay. Now, I have another question. I know that you and your husband were on staff at a church that was predominantly white. Tell us a little bit about that experience that you had being there.
Overall, I guess it was, you had first of all, most of us were Black. But the songs that we sang, of course, were more what people would call CCM and not gospel.
Okay.
So gospel, in a sense, or my roots, was something that was reserved for certain Sundays or Black History Month.
So what you're saying is you weren't able to bring your own flavor or your own style, but you were kind of put in a box to sing a certain way or a certain kind of sound, and
I think to a certain extent, how I would probably, how I would conduct. You know me. You see me on stage.
Yes, I have.
I'm Angel all day, every day.
Right.
When I sing about God, I get excited.
Right.
And, unfortunately, being quote unquote told that, you left the people, not sure how that happens. In particular, a Sunday that I got a little,
excited. Okay.
A little happy, little just let it loose. And then the feedback that I got was, oh, she left the people.
Okay. So it wasn't an overt, you can't sing.
No.
It was more implied. It was more trying
But that's how it is in the church.
Right.
That's how it is in the church. I'm going to be Christian enough not to be overtly in your face about how I want you to conduct yourself.
Wow. And so how has it been being married to a Black man who's also a minister, as well as yourself? You both have, been in the ministry. And what would you say that experience has been like? Is it more stereotypical? Has it been in the different arenas that you all have served? What would you say that experience has been like for you and for your husband, Rashad?
I think overall for Black men and Black women right now, we're traumatized. And working in ministry, giving your all is hard when you are dealing with multi-layered trauma. And this is what I mean by multi-layered. Just being a Black woman married to a Black man, there's a certain amount of generational trauma that we bring to the table.
Correct.
Point blank. And us bonding together in marriage and deciding not to operate in that trauma, but to break the mold of the missing father and the missing mother and the broken that has been passed down to us is revolutionary in and of itself. Then you bring the layer of individual trauma. I have childhood trauma. You know what I mean? Certain things that we go through in life that everybody has a certain level of trauma. So you compound the generational with the individual, current climate. And in ministry, you're trying to basically give away everything that you have to God and his people. I can tell you there have been Sundays where my husband has gone to the church and literally did not want to get out of bed that morning because of something that happened to him personally and what is going on right now. Because when you personally experience something, and I shared it on my Facebook page, about him being followed, a few weeks ago, basically hunted. And we went to the church. We still went to the church to sing and edify God's people. There's just a certain level of sacrifice that worshipers who happen to be Black in this climate have to run up against every time we want to freely worship, because there's a lament there.
Yes.
There's a lament there, but lamenting is a part of worship too.
It is.
That's something that we as Black people have to understand. You don't always have to be strong. Sometimes the strength is in your ability and your willingness to be vulnerable.
Right.
Being vulnerable is the basis of worship. Being vulnerable to God is the basis of worship. And so, with that being said, has it been difficult? Yes. I'm constantly worrying when he leaves the house. I worry myself when I'm out by myself with my baby, when I have on my Black Lives Matter shirt, who gonna try to attack me. You just never know. And being Black is just being in a constant state of awareness. And so ideally, even though we're fighting through to worship, the worship in itself is a house of refuge and peace.
Yes.
So, it's multi-layered. So sorry, I just it just has a lot of layers.
That's exactly what we want to hear, because the purpose of our conversations is so that others, people of other races, not just our white sisters and brothers, but all people, can hear the hurt and the pain that we have experienced, or that maybe they have experienced because of racial oppression or racial systems,
right,
or systemic racism. And unless we have these conversations and allow others to hear these conversations in safe environments, we'll never be able to move forward. We'll always be tiptoeing and worried about hurting someone's feelings or saying different things. But the thing about the enemy is the enemy hides not only in isolation, but he also hides when you are not able to reveal the truth. And so when we are constantly feeling like we have to put it down or not speak up or not speak out, then you allow the enemy to continue to perpetuate the sins that are going on. But when we expose it to the light, then it makes it to the point where you can't help but see it. So Angel, I'm so grateful and thankful that you decided to be our first guest on this conversation specifically about ministry and what it's been like for you. And I can't wait to have you back again for several other topics that we have slated for this. But we just want to say thank you for listening to our talk today on The Silence is Deafening. Have a blessed day.